Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Future Friday, we're going to talk about fusion breakthrough that just happened in the 13th December 2020. It happened a bit few days before that, but that was the announcement. So what we are talking about here? Well, we are talking about National Ignition Facility. Basically, it went boom, meaning it did what it's supposed to do. It took 60 years, but it did what it's supposed to do. Now, ignition, why the heck this word is used? You have to understand, we have trying to approach nuclear fusion power with two methods. One method is ignition method. Basically, you'll have a pellet and we're gonna make it go boom. Second is thermonuclear plasma. Basically, you'll have a plasma that will heat that puppy up to such a degree where it's like it will go boom. So that's why ignition term there does not make that much sense here, because it will be pellet system. It's ignition simply means it actually produced enough energy that it self-combusted, meaning self-reacted would be correct term. So that's the whole point, ignition. And if you want to design a power plant from that, you will have multiple pellets going there, tuk, and each pellet would be quote unquote ignited. Exactly like how the TV show The Expanse, in that fourth season, they have one episode where they show like this alien creature magically changes laws of physics. So their nuclear fusion literally does not happen. So they have rocket ships. It has a pellet goes in there, laser fires it, another pellet comes in, bam, that ignites it. That does not happen. So again, same thing was happening in real life. It was not igniting. We are doing everything, but it was not igniting. Now, fusion created more energy than the input. That's the whole point. Meaning this puppy, we dumped, let's say, X amount of energy, it gave 2X out of it. That was the whole point. We have achieved fusion for long ago. Meaning there are kids who have Guinness Book of the World Record with fusion. That's how easy it is. Problem is getting more out of it. That's the problem. Meaning if we dump 3 into it, it barely gives us like 3.2. Basically useless. So, or not even that. Many of the years we have not even achieved that. Whereas like we're giving it 3, can you at least give us 3? No, it was not achieving what we call break even. This is the first time we achieved ignition where it breached that break even factor, meaning we went sent 2 in, got 3 out. So basically it was first time where we successfully using nuclear fuel for work as we wanted it to. Now, fusion have been achieved for long ago. It's an ancient technology for human standards. But how the heck we achieved it? If it's so goddamn difficult that we are making such a big deal out of it, how the heck we achieved it here? How the heck we have H-booms? Booms that are so big that makes Hiroshima and Nagasaki look like, bro, that was nothing. And to give you a horrifying reality of that, those are really nothing. To give you a context, hydrogen weapon systems that we use, thermonuclear devices that we use, literally has those class of weapons, meaning atom bombs as igniter. We achieve fission to ignite fusion. Fusion is that difficult to achieve, but once you achieve it, once it has that runaway effect, boom, happens. So what we are doing here is basically, instead of having a fission that is creating a lot of X-rays, gamma rays and doing the compression thing, we are using electricity to create lasers. That lasers is doing that thing. We achieved that thing where it went ignition. Basically, we pumped X amount of energy. That's what we gave us, X plus some percentage. So we achieved break even. That's what we call ignition. And that's the pellet size. Tiny pellet. So that's what happened. That's why it's such a big deal about it. Now let's understand the details here. Well, you have to understand, the idea is back in the old days, once we figured out fission, we figured out fusion also. Fusion was surprisingly closely followed after fission. But fission reactors are super easy to build. People can build it, and yes, there was a kid who actually built it in his house, but got radiated from it. But you get the point, like it's easy to do. Fusion, on the other hand, reactor-wise, it's nigh impossible to do, flat out. So people took 2 approaches, meaning tokamak approaches, meaning you'll have a plasma that you heat that puppy up, magnetically isolate that puppy, and then voila, you get fusion. Or this puppy has insanely large amount of laser, and I mean, that's a person, that's one segment of the laser, and it has many segments of that laser, meaning idiotically huge lasers, and it's going to create energy, and it's going to compress that energy in time, meaning it's going to take 1 megawatt hour, make that very gigawatt per picosecond. Like, you change the time vector, you compress that puppy, you make insanely powerful energy pulse, then you pump it into the reactor chamber. In that reactor chamber, you'll have that pellet, and that pellet will go boom. We have been doing this for past 60 years, but we'll never actually manage to go boom here. Every time it's like we put X, it's like X minus 20%, X minus 90%, X minus 35%. It's like, bro, we are never achieving that break-even point so far. So what kind of energies we are talking about? While these puppy consume energy like there is no tomorrow, the energy that actually went into the chamber, that's very tiny. How tiny? Basically 2.05 megajoule. Like, that sounds huge, megajoule. And the output was 3.15 megajoule. That sounds huge. But here's the deal. All these megajoules, they are much smaller than 1 kilowatt hour. Basically, one electrical unit is much smaller than that. Like it had too many zeros, that's why I did not put it here. So let that sink in. Now you're like, wait a minute, then why the heck these puppy consume so much power? Well, here's the deal. Lasers are not efficient. And when these lasers were initially designed in early, 60 years ago, they were designed with one metric. Make it as powerful as possible. Energy efficiency, nobody cares. Make it as powerful as possible. Now be mindful, how the heck people invested so much in this? Because it's not an energy project. It is run by Department of Energy, but it is not a Department of Energy kind of project. It's like a cohabitated project. What is the secondary use? Nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons require a lot of complex understanding. And thermonuclear warheads, even more complex, because be mindful, thermonuclears are so goddamn complex, it has fission as an igniter. So how the heck you do it? Well, back in the old days, we literally went boom to test it out. But after signing some treaties, USA was like, yeah, we can't actually go boom anymore. I mean, if we want to adhere to that principle, so what can you do? Somebody figured out, hey, very, very idiotically high energy laser pulses can teach us enough where our mathematics will become good enough and our simulation will become reliable enough, because we'll have feedback loop that if we say this device works, it will work 99% of the time. Basically, design a nuclear warhead system where it's like, no, we got it. We don't have to actually boom it in order to prove it. We can trust it. Because be mindful, thermonuclear warheads are like, even the smallest one is big enough where it's like, yeah, it's not something that we can just test willy-nilly. So that's why this was a Department of Weapons project, sort of like, that's why the funding happened so early. So the complete picture is very real. It's not energy. Flat out, you're not getting energy out of here. Meaning you cannot get enough energy out of here to run these things, plus the energy inefficiency that's going to happen if you actually try to run a turbine out of it, or basically any power plant system, because any power plant system generally runs on what we call heat engines. Heat engines are inherently inefficient, meaning they will take hot, dump it into cold. Doing that dumping, you extract some energy out of it. So some thermal power plant system, meaning coal power plant system, could be only 30% efficient. Very best system could 40%. If you are ludicrously lucky, 50%. So you have to understand, this has to make like 2 megajoule in, it has to make 300 out. Yes. And you have to know the same goes with tokamak also. Tokamak has also achieved surplus, but surplus is like very tiny. It's like we put 1 megawatt in and it gave 1.1 megawatt out. That's useless. And you have to understand, even if that was 2, still would be useless, because you have to calculate the whole system, what we call energy from the plug. One person asked this question in the live stream, live event of that system. And the same point was like, it's not producing enough energy. Don't even think about that. So do not think it's as an energy product. It's like, yeah, this is a reactor, it makes energy. Do not think in that terms. So that's the detail of it. It's not making too much energy. It's just that it achieves surplus. It proved that laser ignition system is a system that can be done and it works. Now, can we make lasers more efficient? Yes, to a very large extent, because these were very ancient technology, but it works. It was like big daddy kind of lasers. We can make far more efficient lasers nowadays, but again, not to extent where it's like, we put 100 megawatts in and 100 megawatt laser output comes out, that not that efficient. 100, 30 out. So that's the detail of it. So be mindful. Energy wise, we are talking very tiny energies, but 2 in, 3 out, that's the whole point. So can we make a power plant? Well, here's the deal. Scientists who are working basically on those locations, like physical people who are actually working or actually doing kitty on the computer, they are flat out saying themselves, I'm not saying it, not YouTubers saying it, it's not some analyst saying that, it's like it's decades out, not 1 decade, decades out. Why the heck that is? Well, you have to understand. At this point in time, the most optimistic analysis is that this 30-year is the final 30-year, meaning fusion always had this joke, is like, it's 30 years away, every 30 years. Like 30 years away after fusion, when we had reactor, people figured out fusion is the next thing. People started investing into it. They built tokamaks, actually starting to achieve fusion. So everybody was like, 30 years. Scientists were saying that. Then 30 years passed. Then it's like, no, next 30 years. Then that passed. So it became a ever-running joke, is like every 30 years, every 30 years. This time is like, no, final 30 years. Why? We have achieved break even, meaning we put energy in, it gave more out. Of course, we have to scale this puppy up to multiple factors of 10 rather than like, in percentage. It has to be like 50, 60 or 200 or 300% up. Otherwise, it will simply not work. So they themselves are flat out saying that it's decades out, 30 years just before we reach a point where it's a reactor that is selling electricity to the grid. Yes, they are designing, be mindful, designing at this point in time, commissioning a project that should be working for 10 years. Basically from today to 10 years from now, we should have a plant that is a pilot project. They are figuring out the funding for that pilot project, not a reactor that is working and giving electricity to the grid, a pilot project figuring things out. And so it's going to take a very long amount of time, but 30 years from now, we should have that pilot project should have worked. Then it should have taken another 10 years to have mass production design, another that before we actually have electricity in the grid. Then another 30 from that point, before it becomes cost effective. Be very mindful. These things do work. We know this work. We have achieved it, and people knew before they built it. It's like it's gonna work. It's just gonna take very tedious. These are expensive technologies, and it's like same way mobile phone did not just like mobile phone super expensive technology to like super cheap technology. That did not happen overnight. It took time, 30 years time. So same thing will happen here. Once we achieve a reactor that is working on nuclear fusion fuel, it's going to take time before it becomes big enough demand for it, big enough desire for it, more enough competition into it, then it will become cost effective. So basically 2080s, and maybe even that is optimistic. So you have to understand why the heck I'm saying that part may be optimistic, because this is a complex equation, very complex calculation, where it's like, okay, the laser has to be this, the laser field has to be this angle has to be there, cool it, cryogenically it has to be cooled. Yeah, these things are cryogenically cooled, laser entrance, X-ray production, all that jazz. We have been trying it for 60 years, did not work. So it is complex, fundamentally it's complex. And this works. Let's assume there is a reactor in the future that works. How the heck it will be cheaper than solar or wind? Because be mindful, solar and wind cross this threshold. They're like, we sorted it out. It works at this point in time. Solar specifically because it is also across the threshold of coal, meaning coal prices are going up, solar prices are coming down. So the cross point happened. What does that mean? That simply means at this point in time, in India, in China, in Australia, things of that nature, it's cheaper to build a solar farm rather than coal power plant. And more solar farm is being added to the power plant simply because it's cheaper to run. And people are like, yeah, we're just going to use coal at night. Or use pumped hydro, off-grid pumped hydro for basically long-term energy storage that can store gigawatt hours of capacity, and like voila, completely renewable. That is today's technology. That works, tested, and people are doing it. But we have still bitching that it's expensive. And of course, it is expensive. This will be exponentially more expensive than that. Exponentially more. And it will take very long amount of time. And wind, again, it also works 24/7, does not have that kind of issue of solar where it's not going to work at night, but it does not have like the stability of solar. So, but if you add these two technology alone, at this point in time, you can run countries on renewable energy. At this point in time, not future, not 50 years from now, today. Everybody did the math and everybody is like, yeah, math checks out. And Europe is already moving into that direction. And they know for a fact that they have already built pilot projects, already have multiple gigawatt wind farms. They know the year round output, and it's like, yeah, if we just add few more, not hundreds of more, few of them, and few of solar farms, few of biogas plants, few of biomass plants, done. Today technology. And we are bitching that it's expensive. How the heck you gonna do fusion, man? So let that sink in. Power plant is very far away. So many times I've made video for, basically I've been making video for past 4 years, and I've learned a lot of things. But many times people complain, it's like, and again, rightly so, that I'm very negative of very lot of technologies. Basically Hyperloop 4 years ago, I was like, no, this is BS. Now people are like, okay, I get it why it's BS. But again, why the heck I'm so critical of this thing? Well, you have to understand me. Where do I come from? Well, I come from a point where I understand time is the final variable. Meaning there is no point like, if you're like, I want to be like as strong as Joe Rogan, here's the deal, you are already 35. Good luck trying to beat that. You can't. Why? Joe Rogan figured it out his life in 20s. Like you start to build your body in early years, only then you can last much longer time. If you start late, you will never reach that peak efficiency. Same goes for ecosystem. If you mess the ecosystem up, you have to solve it as quickly as possible. You cannot rely, I'm gonna, chill around for 30 years and then I'm gonna try to fix it. It's not gonna be fixable at that point in time. Same happened with China. China was contaminating its water sources without thinking about the future. And once it became so contaminated, they're like, okay, now we have to actually fix it because water is literally black. It has so much toxin in it. It's like flat out lethal. What we can do? Nothing. It's too contaminated at this point. Again, same thing happens. So you have to understand, I think global warming is real. Many people still don't think it. I don't care. It's like, because I can sell you solar on either way. It's like, do you want cheap electricity? Buy solar. That's it. So do you think global warming is real or not? That's the first thing. If yes, follow this video. Second, it's like, how much time do you think we have? Because here's the deal. We know for a fact what could happen to a planet if runaway greenhouse effect happens. We call it Venus. It's very bad. We do not want to be there. It's idiotically bad. So we know that's the upper limit. Like that's how bad situation can get. Earth is a starting point. That is the end point. Okay. How long do we have? Now here's the answer is not very clear. Why? Are we adding more CO2 in the atmosphere? Absolutely. Are we increasing the number of basically tonnage of CO2 that we are adding per year? Yes, that is also unfortunately true. But a lot of people are actually trying to curb it, and rate of growth has slowed down. Meaning instead of adding like 10 trillion ton per year, we are adding like, I'm talking addition on the X value. 10 ton extra, X, extra, X, extra. That percentage is starting to slow down. Little bit, but it is slowing down. So how much years do we have? We don't know. Some calculations suggest that we have 30 years, and some calculations suggest that we may have 100 years. We do not know, and hence we cannot even find out to know, because we only have one test planet, that is Earth. So we cannot know. Now, why it is such a big deal if we are not that sure? Well, here's the deal. Ecosystem will be poofed long before that. Long before Earth becomes like Venus, we will be poofed. Now, what is my evidence of that? Like, what did made me so sure that global warming is real? Well, I went to basically Manali. It's India's hilly region where we had snow. Now, here's the deal. They had markers, basically milestones. Each milestone had a month rating. Basically, not everyone, but a few milestones had like January and basically June. Basically, in June go till this point. In January only go till this point, because again, winter snow used to exceed, in summer it used to recede. So at that point in time, we had milestone. Now here's the deal. I was looking at this, I was like, that's interesting. Then the driver took us even further. I was like, okay, I saw that milestone again, where it's like, January and June. And then I went deeper, again, January and June. I'm like, why the hell is these are repeating? He said, those were very long ago. Like in 1990, CC used to come this far. In 2000, it's coming this far. 2010, it's here. Like these are kilometers of snow recession. Like at this point in time, in satellite images, we have that. It's like glacier, 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 glacier. We are at a point where it's like we know for a fact that this will be gone in 20 years. Like I physically saw it. That was like my, whoa, this is here, this is real. There are many bridges in India that no longer have water. Like I travel in railway a lot. So railway have like very like GGA built bridges, and they have markings. It's like where the water line is supposed to be. Back in the days, it used to be like almost overflowing. Where it's like, red level or yellow level. Now I can see the base. And it's happening worldwide. Everybody is noticing it. It's like, yeah, we are running out of rivers. So at some point I realized that global warming is real. For me, again, you may be like, I don't believe it. That's up to you. Again, I traveled there, I saw it, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, it's real. And again, if you have more than enough upset has been done to the ecosystem, where it's like we are reaching a point where we may not have time to fix it. Same exactly like how China contaminated its water supplies. It's like we can't really do much to fix it. So if we have very little amount of time, fusion is flat out late. Flat out. It's a good technology, but flat out we do not have the time. Basically, it's like you're bleeding and the treatment is like 30 years away. It's just not good enough, not fast enough. Assuming that all other vectors that are pointing to a point where it's like, dude, we're gonna reach a very messed up situation very quickly. Yeah, fusion is flat out too late. And another aspect is that if you have faraway dream ideas, like this technology will solve all our problem, we don't have to change our ways. It's like it takes money and time away from the ecosystem, like human ecosystem, human economics. It takes both of them away. Neither of them can be brought back. Meaning Indian government wasted money, like hundreds of crore for Hyperloop. That money just went away. It's like, yeah, oh, Hyperloop is a bullshit. It's like, yeah, I was saying that 4 years ago. Every engineer was saying that 4 years ago. It's like, if we had saved that money, we could have built a metro. It would have been actually useful. It would have actually reduced CO2. Hyperloop. So same point, like every time you have faraway dreams, it takes something away from useful, productive technologies. These work. Yes, they are expensive. Yes, they are not miracle solution, but they work. They are here. They are real. Like imagine going into 1990s and say that India has a 2 gigawatt solar farm. That is just one solar farm. We have many like that. Now, of course, not every one of them are like 2 gigawatt. Many of them are like generally 1 gigawatt. But imagine that, like we have gigawatts of energy coming out of solar. People would have said like, dude, what are you smoking? But that's normal today. Like we can achieve so much today with today's technology, but we are not, because we are focusing on fusion. Billions of dollars have been poured of tax money into fusion. This system is not that bad simply because it's a nuclear weapon project masqueraded as a fusion research system, but tokamaks are like flat out, dude. You have already consumed billions of dollars. It's almost like how bad is like, carbon capture. It's like you burnt $10 billion. It took 10 years and have nothing to show for it. All of your assessment, basically, oh, we're going to capture 50 tons. How many you capture? 250 kilograms. It's like, what the hell? All of that, we could have made solar. We could have reduced so much carbon footprint, but we did not. And that's why I hate this sort of system. Where it's like, in future, we're going to have amazing technology. It's like, dude, future is today. Let's fix it today so we may have a future. Then we come to the core aspect. If I'm understanding, if many engineers are understanding, even the people who are in the panel, they were themselves, yeah, this is decades out. So why the heck it was done? Well, it's a political move. You have to understand. This was a direct message, basically a RPG targeted for this guy. Now, why the heck? Well, Putin, people have realized that Putin is lost, flat out the end. Now, how badly is lost? That's the different question. Basically, how much you have lost, that's a part that will sort out in next 2 years. So it's done. But this message was not targeted for him, it was targeted for his close ring of people. Basically, Putin has no future. Basically, he does not have like, oh, I have this son, I want my Russia to be great again in the future. No, he does not have it. He's a dictator. Dictators only think about themselves. They're like, I want to be great, so I'm doing this. And it happens. Every dictatorship study that in history always ends the same way. He's doing the same thing. But dictators always have support ring of people. As long as those people are there, he's protected. So its message is for those people. What does this mean? It simply means your children will end up exactly like North Korea. North Korea was superior to South Korea by exponential margin back in the days. Exponential margin. Like dirt poor versus GG. What happened now? So this message is exactly the same. It's like, bro, because oil and gas is gonna go away. Maybe not today, maybe 10 years from now, maybe 30 years from now, but it will go away. Meaning you will live long enough to see the seeds of that happening. Like you will live long enough. And I already planted the seed. I achieved fusion. You will see it becoming an actual useful technology. Maybe it happens even quicker. I am assuming 2080s. Maybe it happens in like, let's say, next 15 years. Maybe that could happen and I would be happy about it. That could happen. And this message was directly, it's like, bro, keep supporting this guy and your country will turn to dust. Exactly like North Korea. Because it's only few decades away. We're gonna happen, we're gonna reach you, we're gonna reach a point where your oil and gas will mean nothing and you have no other industry. Your weapons are useless because A, it can't defend anything, B, it can't attack anything useful. That's why your missiles are reaching like freaking playground. Who bombs a playground, man? It's like, and people are saying, no, it's a this and that. No, it just basically means you wanted to hit something, your navigation system was not. We have hypersonic, you fired it. What the hell happened from that? Nothing, no? Same point. So people have realized this, like, dude, Russia has nothing. Heck, they are literally sending official request to India to buy car parts. You have nothing, just oil and gas. That's a really bad position to be. So flat out. So oligarchs have kids. So oligarchs is like, dude, do I really support this balding man? And it's like, bro, I'm going to go down, I'm going to take down Russia with me, or I poof him. So this is what's happening. And that's why we have to understand this was politically motivated system. And I would urge you to watch the full video, 1 hour, 30 minutes of this guy, basically. Basically, this individual started the talk. And first few minutes he talks about, we know what we are doing. What does that mean? Basically, he was talking about deterrent. And that's why I said this project is not an energy project. It's a nuclear weapons project, nuclear warhead project specifically. And he was talking about like, we successfully now test our nuclear system without causing any nuclear warhead explosions. That's awesome. That means when we are saying that we have 3,000 nuclear warheads, we know that we have 3,000. We know that if we launch it, it is going to work. It's not going to be like Russian hypersonic missile. The second one they launched, it fell out of sky. It's not going to be like that. So we know. And why the heck it is important to say, like that was the first statement he said, we know what we are doing. Second, also to convince our allies that we know what we are doing. Why the heck is he saying that? Well, to individual satiate these two countries, meaning Sweden and Finland is joining basically NATO. Now, Russia is like, oh, Ukraine wanted to join NATO. First, lie. Ukraine did not want to do that as long as Ukraine was left alone, which it was. It was like Putin was like, I will take your nukes. I'm not going to piss you off. I'm like, okay. But Ukraine was like, okay, I have nothing, no power, nothing. I'm not a threat, so nobody's bothering me. Okay, no problem. Russia is like, what if we take your Crimea? What if we just like, kuching, which is just like, take it away. And that point, Ukraine freaked out. It's like, bro, you promised, you signed the treaty. 3 countries signed it, like UK, USA, and Russia, that we're not going to tamper with it. You violated the treaty. That meant Ukraine was very exposed. At that point in time, it's like, dude, we have to go to NATO, otherwise we are dead. And again, as he predicted, basically, Ukraine predicted that this balding man will attack again. Thankfully, USA also predicted that that's going to happen. So USA sent a lot of generals to train these people, basically Zelensky's army, and that army shot they're like, we're good. And because Ukraine bitch slapped Russia so badly that Russia lost enough soldiers. At this point in time, upper estimate is around 100k soldiers lost, like gone, the end, done. I'm not talking wounded or injured, gone. And so badly Russia has lost that they openly have to say that we are doing mobilization. It showed the world that, dude, you are paper elephant, flat out paper elephant. And the fact that you also lost your flagship to Ukraine. So Finland is no longer scared, but Finland is scared of his nuclear power. It's like he's going to launch nuclear warheads. Let's say he launches 30 or 40 of them, only 1 or 2 of them works. But again, that's more than enough damage. So it needs a shield. Now it cannot trust Russia's word, because again, Russia gave Ukraine the word. Ukraine became the first country to part with his nuclear warheads, and again defanged itself. But consequence, Russia was like, what if I rape you now? So Finland knows for a fact that Russia's word is no longer trustworthy. So they need bigger daddy guns. So USA did this, and Finland has much larger part. And this point, they have the submarine base. So HIMARS from this to that, done. All submarine, poof. So Russia is very worried now. And again, dude, you do not address a nation with champagne in your hand when you have like really bad recession. You do not do this. Again, but we have a dictator who is eating cake when his country is starving to death. So that's why I said this is whole thing was political. It was directly telling the whole world that USA still knows what they are doing. Teaching their allies is like, bro, if you come under our armor, you can trust that our nuclear warheads actually work. We actually have the technology. And Ukraine's proved the world that Russia is not actually a threat. It's just like, we have nukes, we have nukes, we have nukes. Like, dude, Ukraine bitch slapped you so badly that you have to mobilize 300,000 soldiers. Like, you have to buy car parts from India. You have to buy drones from Iran. Bro. It's like you're supposed to be equal to USA. It's like, bro, that's bad. It's like, there is a lot of rumors that we are attaching. Yes, we are. But who started it? It's like, dude, you started a war and that's your excuse? It's like, oh, you know who started? They attacked a bridge. It's like, you went into their nation. So that's the political aspect of it. It's going to be very interesting when Finland gets joined. Let's see what Turkey does. So this was my presentation on basically this whole fusion debacle. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike. Press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free. And as always, thanks for watching.